Good morning, it's today again. Welcome back to Joseph's Reserves. I'm Joseph, and I store 20% of my income in the form of rare coins and precious metals. A lot of people think that they understand silver until they try to sell it, because buying silver is exciting, it feels empowering, and it feels like you're taking control of your financial future. But selling silver, that's when reality shows up. And honestly, one of the biggest misconceptions in precious metals is what coin shops are actually paying. A lot of stackers assume I paid a premium, so I should get a premium back. But in reality, the second you walk through those doors to sell, you enter a completely different market. So today I want to explain how coin shops value their silver, why premiums often disappear, why some silver is dramatically easier to sell, why liquidity matters more than most people realize, and what actually happens when you walk into a coin shop with your stack. Congratulations to Wayne Hurd for being the first to comment on yesterday's video. Thank you so much for the support. Today's going to be a little bit different because I actually work at a coin shop. Instead of just talking theory or instead of talking about internet speculation or repeating rumors, I'm going to explain how the selling process actually works from the other side of the counter. And honestly, I think understanding how silver is sold is just as important as understanding how to buy it. Because eventually every stacker reaches a moment where they ask, if I need to liquidate this tomorrow, what would actually happen? So let's say someone walks into a shop carrying some silver. The first thing we look at is the type. American Silver Eagles, Maple Leafs, generic rounds, 100-ounce bars, junk silver, collectible coins, Morgan dollars. All of this is immediately going to be categorized because silver is not just silver. This is probably one of the biggest lessons I've learned working at a coin shop. An American Silver Eagle is not treated the same as a generic round, even though both contain 1 ounce of silver. And that actually surprises most of the people that walk in to sell silver. The reason this matters comes down to one word: liquidity. Recognizable products are easier to sell, and easier to sell products are less risky for the coin shop. American Silver Eagles are government minted, they're instantly recognized, they're difficult to counterfeit convincingly, and they're trusted by almost everyone. So if someone walks into a coin shop wanting to buy, these move a lot more quickly. But generic rounds are different. Even if the silver is real, the shop still has a little bit more uncertainty. Questions like who made it? Is it widely trusted? Is the demand strong? Will customers want it? And how long will it sit in inventory? And honestly, time sitting in inventory matters a lot more than people realize. So once we have these separated into different categories, we can assess the different liquidity, the different spreads, the different demand, and really the different wholesale pricing. Once the silver is categorized, the next step is verification. The shop I work at mostly uses a Sigma Metalytics, and using that Metalytics will help us verify if we need to use something a little more extreme like our XRF machine. This is extremely important because counterfeit silver absolutely does exist. And even the Sigma Metalytics and the XRF machine can be fooled by fakes. So a lot of the time testing silver purely comes down to visual inspection. Does it feel like it's heavy enough? Is it the right size, diameter, and thickness? Does it weigh the right amount? And if we need to, we can actually break out the calipers and actually calculate the density of whatever we're holding. Usually that's not necessary because the Sigma Metalytics actually tests its electrical resistance. If it's the wrong alloy or the electrical resistance is slightly off, it will fail that test. But fakes can fool it. So the XRF machine actually looks 10 microns deep into the metal and can tell us the exact composition of that alloy, which if you played it enough times, that can be fooled as well. But in order to fool both of these, you'd have to have a very specific mix of alloys that is really not going to be able to pass a weight and diameter and thickness test. So now we've separated all the fakes from the real ones. We've categorized all the silver. What happens next? Well, now let's talk about the thing that shocks the most people, the premiums. A lot of people buy silver during high demand periods. That means when price is relatively low. When price is relatively low, the premiums actually come up. When price is relatively high and people are in the mood for selling, the premiums come down. Of course, that's with buying, that's with selling as well. The premiums are going to be very low when everyone is selling. People might remember spending, say, $15 over spot for an eagle during one of these high premium moments. There might be huge premiums on collectible silver and crazy prices during shortages. And because they paid those premiums, they're emotionally anchored to them. They might be thinking, well, I paid this much, so surely I can sell it for close to that. But that's really not how the market actually works. Probably the most important concept in this entire video is that there are two completely different markets, retail and wholesale. When you buy silver, you buy at a retail. When a coin shop buys silver from you, they buy it at wholesale. And the spread between those two markets is where the business survives. People often assume, well, the shop is going to be selling the eagles for this much, so why aren't they paying close to that? And really, this has to do with buying and selling volume. And this is something I've noticed when working in this industry is that people buy slowly, but they sell quickly. A buyer might come in and dollar cost average one American Eagle, 5 rounds, maybe a tube or a 10-ounce bar, but sellers often unload huge quantities all at once. And honestly, the difference shapes the entire business model. Even when the shop has the same number of buyers and sellers throughout the day, the buyers will come in and possibly pick up 1 to 10 ounces, where a seller might be selling off 1,000 to 5,000 ounces of silver. And of course, you could think, well, the shop should just buy all that silver and hold on to it, wait for the silver to run up, and then they'd profit even more, right? But the shop has a limited amount of money just like anyone else does. They can't buy 5,000 ounces of silver 30 times a day for the next 10 years. Big bulk drop-offs and unloads like that require liquidity, and that's why this becomes a wholesale market. Almost all of those 5,000 ounces will go directly to a wholesaler by the end of the day. So what that means is whatever the wholesaler is willing to buy it from the shop at will determine whatever we can pay the customer who is walking in to sell. It's not based off of what we can sell it at a retail price. It's based off of whoever is actually going to be buying it, which is in this case the wholesaler. And while we're talking about this specific side of things, let's say we did have a big buyer come in and completely clean us out of American Silver Eagles. That means that we would have to replace those American Silver Eagles so that we had inventory. We would have to buy them from our wholesaler, which means we'd have to initially sell the first ones at more than our replacement cost from the wholesaler. And that's actually how the retail side is priced as well. Another huge risk is inventory risk. Let's say a shop buys 1,000 ounces of silver and silver drops by $1. That's immediately a $1,000 hit, and silver moves fast. So when people complain about buy prices seeming harsh, a lot of the times they don't realize the amount of risk that dealers are carrying. We're assuming that someone's going to be coming in with a large quantity of silver, and we even price buying 1 ounce at a time in the same way. A lot of people think that since they can get a discount when buying in large quantity, they often might get a better deal on the sell as well if they're selling in large quantity. But in this case, bringing more silver does not always mean getting a better price. In reality, large transactions can actually create even more risk. If someone walks in with 10 monster boxes of eagles or 10,000 ounces of silver, this exposure becomes enormous because now the dealer is heavily exposed to price swings before the inventory actually even gets to the wholesaler. And that's exactly why a coin shop will be paying significantly more for something that moves fast. So, what products do move fast? Generally, American Silver Eagles, recognized government bullion, generic rounds, and fractional gold. These are the most liquid products. Liquid just means they're easy to price, they're easy to trust, and they're easy to resell. And honestly, liquidity is completely underrated. A lot of stackers focus on aesthetics, rarity, and emotional attachment, but eventually the exit strategy will matter. Now, on the flip side, what's the hardest to sell? These will be novelty silver items, the high premium collectibles, weird private mint products, oftentimes junk silver, these giant awkward bars like the 1,000 ounce bars, obscure products that really nobody recognizes. And honestly, this is where a lot of beginners accidentally get this trapped value. They buy something because they think it looks cool, it looks limited edition, it seems totally different than a lot of the things that they're stacking. And because of that, it's actually very difficult for a coin shop to price that well or buy it back from you at a decent premium. That's why a lot of the times these awkward products are actually very discounted and for sale at coin shops. So, what's the best thing that someone can do before trying to sell their silver? In all honesty, it's quite simple. Just call ahead. Seriously, call multiple shops and ask, what are you paying for Eagles today? What's your generic rate? What are you paying for junk silver? And very quickly, you'll discover what the real market looks like. And when you're having those conversations with the coin shops, realize that they're pricing it based off of what they can sell to their wholesaler. Also, you're going to want to categorize it similar to how they would categorize it in their shop. Ask about American Eagles, not I have this one specific coin with this design and privy. Of course, there are those nuances that will matter, and in those cases, make sure you know exactly what you have so that they can appropriately and accurately give you a quote. If you call a shop and they are refusing to give you a quote, I would honestly suggest staying away from that shop. Most respectable shops will actually be able to tell you today they're offering this dollar amount under spot for any specific category. If they can't tell you that, then it sounds like they may even be shooting from the hip right as you walk in. And honestly, that's not a shop you're going to want to do business with. And now, when it comes to payment, most shops pay in cash. Depending on local laws, transaction sizes, and compliance with requirements, they may be interested in doing a wire, an ACH, or a check, but most of the time that comes to customer preference. So if you are going into a coin shop with a large amount of volume, you might want to call first to find out if they either have the cash on hand or the cash in the bank in order to perform your wire or ACH or really however you prefer your payment. The last thing I want to cover here is whether or not you're required to show your ID in order to sell silver to a local coin shop. And most of the time that comes to the type of silver that you are selling. If the coin is denominated like an American Silver Eagle or junk silver, any government bullion coin, a lot of the times that's considered a currency exchange and an ID is not necessarily required. However, if you're selling a generic bar or a generic round, that is a privately minted commodity. That is actually going to be considered property under the legal terms. So that will require an ID in order for you to trade that for dollars or new currency. Of course, call your local coin shop and find out what you need to provide based on your personal sale. If the sale is large enough, you may even need to provide a lot more documentation for other forms that might be included. I have plenty of other videos talking about those limits, so go ahead and check those out. I think every stacker eventually needs to ask themselves this one question. If I had to liquidate tomorrow, how easy would that actually be? Because buying silver is easy. Understanding liquidity, spreads, and the wholesale market, that's where the real experience starts. If you like this video, make sure to give it a thumbs up. Go into the comment section to ask questions or have a conversation with those that are also watching this video. Share the video with those you may think like it, and subscribe if you haven't already. If you've been a follower of mine for some time, I do just want to say thank you so much for your support. Consider taking a trip to my website, josephsreserves.com, for any merchandise, zip-up bags to hold your silver, or trying some of my coffee. But most of all, thank you so much for watching. And just remember, every ounce adds up. So no matter how small, just keep stacking. You can now write me at Joseph's Reserves, 10160 Highway 242, Suite 800, number 401 in Conroe, Texas, zip code 77385. Make sure to include your information so I can write you back.